Well, I mean, I played music for so long, and first met my composer Justin Hurwitz when we were playing music together. So I think music has been at kind of the core of anything that I've wanted to do in movies from the beginning. I think music and film are actually somewhat similar art forms, and can really speak to each other emotionally, narratively. So yeah, I mean, particularly a movie like this, to actually make music its subject and its form, to do a full-fledged musical like this was just a dream come true. It's a kind of crazy city, isn't it? It's sort of very unique and very unlike other cities, and that's what I wanted to showcase. It's not a city that you can't really compare it to, New York or Paris. It's its own thing, and it still is a sort of dream factory, I think, where people from all over the world come. It was a city that was partly built by the movies, and it still sort of lures dreamers to it. So I wanted to have this movie be a love letter to not just the city itself, but to that whole idea of dreamers, dreams, and having your head in the clouds. Especially a lot of the old Hollywood musicals, the Fred and Ginger pictures, the Arthur Freed unit stuff at MGM, Gene Kelly, Singing in the Rain, movies like that. And then just as much the Jacques Demy movies from the 60s, The Umbrellas of Cherbourg, Young Girls of Rochefort. I like that, timely and timeless. It was exactly kind of the hope, was actually to have it be old and new at the same time, and that's what we talked about every day with every department of the crew. When you're doing a musical, there's lots of different art forms that you have to have painting and architecture and dance and music and literature and narrative all kind of come together, and it has to feel seamless. So David Wasco, our production designer, Mary Zoffreys in costumes, Lena Sandgren on camera, Mandy Moore, the choreographer, they all had to be speaking the same language. So we prepped all together, basically. We were all, housed in these production offices and warehouses in the Valley together, kind of our own little studio system, and kind of built the movie that way. Well, I just hope that it takes them on a ride. I love movies that really create an overwhelming emotional feeling, an emotional response in an audience, but without cheap tricks. The idea that this is a movie about ordinary people going through emotions that we can all relate to, but I want it to feel epic, and I want it to feel overwhelming and beautiful, and the way that life for us individually can feel. In some ways, it's more than I ever could have dreamed of. I hoped the movie would connect, but I know also that there's some resistance to musicals and to movies, as you say, that are not cynical. This was a movie that was going to be very earnest about being a musical. We weren't going to apologize. We weren't going to try to kind of make it too ironic. We were just going to put our emotions on our sleeves, hearts on our sleeves, and hope that people would respond. I'm so kind of rewarded and thrilled, and still a little bit in a daze from the fact that it does connect the way you described.
How? Let's go back in time and go to the genesis. If I got it right, this was the first movie you wanted to do before Whiplash. Is that it?
Yeah.
How did that happen?
Well, I'd moved to LA, and wanting to make movies and having big dreams like the characters in the movie. But finding myself having to balance dreams and reality, and the sort of up and down of living in LA, when you feel like you're on the outside looking in, and I always felt that a musical was a way to tell that story. That you could say something about what it means today to be a young artist in the city, which means also what it means to be a person anywhere with a dream today. What does it mean to pursue a dream in 2016? I felt like you could say something about that through the prism of 1930s, 1940s musicals, or the films of Jacques Demy from the 60s.
Why is that? Why did you feel that it was a...
Because I think those movies are timeless. I don't actually think they're dated, and I think also that there's just a basic idea that they use that we don't see a lot anymore, that I felt like had to be brought back, which is this idea that movies don't have to be a literal one-to-one representation of reality. That movies can describe how we feel. They don't have to describe the exact, they can take liberties. We don't break into song, right? But sometimes when you're in love, when you're heartbroken, it feels like you could. And so I wanted to make a movie that really used as its basis that emotion, and didn't shy away from exploding into fantasy.
There's also what I call the beautiful naivete of the musical. Is that also what you were working for?
Yeah, because when you say naivete, you're alluding to a certain divorce from reality, and I think, and obviously that's a good and a bad thing. This is a movie, about people who have to kind of find that balance and learn to get more real, I guess, as the movie goes on, and for better or for worse. But I think you never want to lose sight of that naivete or that kind of innocence or that. I think of it even less as naivete or innocence as just hopefulness and lack of cynicism. The way the ability to see the world as a beautiful place, as a place that is full of magic if you know where to look.
I don't want to say the word cruelty, but showing filming the audition scene, it's tough for Emma. I mean, it's really difficult. How to tell that to an actor that it's going to be this?
Well, it was really important to me to, in that sense, it's not that different from Whiplash. I wanted to show the costs of, that's not easy to be an artist. Whether you're a jazz drummer or an actor, that these are not things that you just kind of roll out of bed and go, I'm going to do that, and that everything comes easy. So I wanted to really not shy away from the pain. And Emma was the same way, and obviously she and Ryan have gone through their fair share of auditions like that. So yeah, it was important to us to get that right.
Do you realize that you probably made the first optimistic movies about broken dreams? It's a movie that says, that's broken dream, but it's life, there will be other dreams.
Right.
Did you realize that?
I was hoping that this would be a movie that would, marry happy and sad a little bit. To me, that is something the movies of Jacques Demy did so beautifully, which is that, you look at something like The Umbrellas of Cherbourg, or, Les Parapluies de Cherbourg, or Les Demoiselles de Rochefort, or Lola, or what have you, and you see movies that are both incredibly, hopeful and joyful and optimistic, and yet very cognizant of the pain in life. And I wanted this movie to exist in that space.